Hello, in this discussion we're going to be finding the 6 trig functions evaluated at 30 degrees, also known as pi over 6, and 60 degrees, which is also known as pi over 3 in radians. So that's what our discussion here is about. So let's begin. Let's begin with this example. So what we're going to do is using these, we're going to find the exact values of the trig functions at those values. So remember the 30, 60, 90 degree triangle. So we're going to do it very similar to the way we did the 45, 45, 90, but there's a different relationship between these. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a symmetrical triangle. Okay, so we all have another one back to back. So we have a 60s on the corners, and these two 30s are going to be add up to 60. So we have a 60, 60, 60 equilateral triangle. So if we let the hypotenuse on that first one be 2, then the legs of this equilateral triangle is 2, which makes the bottom leg also 2 because it's equilateral. Equiangular means equilateral. So since these are both A's on the bottom, that makes the bottom length, each one of those ones on A. So A happens to be 1. So what we're going to do is now redraw that first triangle with a 1 on the bottom and then 2 on the hypotenuse. Where does that b equals square root of 3 come from? Where does that come from? Well, it comes from the Pythagorean theorem. So if we do a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then the b would end up being square root of 3. So you can confirm that yourself. Alrighty? So what we're going to do now is to take the sine of 30 degrees and using the opposite of hypotenuse. So looking at that last triangle, 30 degrees is the top one. So 30 degrees, sine of 30 degrees is the opposite, which is 1 over 2. And then the cosine of 30 degrees is adjacent of hypotenuse. So that's going to be square root of 3 over 2. So the adjacent to a 30 degree angle is the adjacent side, which is b. So it's going to be the square root of 3 over 2. Now the tangent of 30 degrees is opposite over adjacent. So what's that? That's going to be a over b. 1 over square root of 3. And rationalizing it is square root of 3 over 3. Now very similar to the 45 degree angle one that we did on the previous video. These you need to have memorized. We don't want to reinvent this every time we see it. So these are just values. When I say what is the value of the cosine of 30 degrees, without a blinking of the eye, you should say square root of 3 over 2. So this is just a memorization thing here, but this is how they're created. You can always come back to this if you have to, but it's going to serve you well if you just get them memorized. Now the 60 degree one. So sine of 60 degrees, remember, again, is opposite of hypotenuse. So opposite of the 60 degree angle is the square root of 3, and the hypotenuse is 2. So it's the square root of 3 over 2. But I want you to also notice something real quick. Look at the sine of 60 degrees and look at the cosine of 30 degrees. It's the same value. Now, some previous videos, what we did, we talked about cofunctions. And on a cofunction, they have the same value, remember? So sine of 60 degrees is the cosine of 30 degrees. And that's the case in this example as well. So guess what the cosine of 60 degrees is going to be? The cosine of 60 degrees should be the same as the sine of 30 degrees, which is 1/2. Let's see. So cosine of 60 degrees is adjacent over hypotenuse, which the adjacent side to the 60 degree angle is the 1, and the hypotenuse again is still 2. So it's 1/2. So indeed, cosine of 60 degrees is the same thing as the sine of 30 degrees. Now, what is tangent's cofunction? Tangent's cofunction is cotangent. So what is the tangent of 60 degrees? We don't have these up here. So tangent of 60 degrees is opposite over adjacent. So opposite to the 60 degree angle is going to be square root of 3 over 1, which is the square root of 3. Whoops, let's go back a little bit. So tangent of 60 degrees is the square root of 3. Now, notice I've done the sine, the cosine, and the tangent of all three of these. I don't have the other three trig functions, the secant and the cosecant and the cotangent. So, but the process is exactly the same. Now, but the reason I did these 6 right here is because these are the 6 that you really need to memorize. The other ones for the secant and the cosecant and the cotangent, you typically don't memorize what is the secant of 60 degrees. You kind of do a little bit of a roundabout way of getting there, but what you'll do is, well, I don't know what the secant of 60 degrees is, but I know the cosine of 60 degrees. So cosine of 60 degrees, again, is 1/2. So the secant of 60 degrees, what do you think? It's the reciprocal, so it's 2/1, which is 2. So these 6 right here that I have listed on this slide needs to be memorized. The other ones for the secant and the cosecant and the cotangent for the 30-degree and the 60-degree angle needs to be just used. To get those, you'll just use these 6 right here to do them. Then you'll use the reciprocal part. So it alleviates a little bit of the memorization problems. But there's enough already because it's these 6 right here, and you remember the 45-degree angle that we have to memorize on our previous slide, and we're still not done. So, but anyway, let's move on. This is the summary of what we just talked about in the last 2 slides. If you have pi over 6, which is 30 degrees, pi over 4, which is 45 degrees, and pi over 3, which is 60 degrees. Now, the sine of 30 degrees is 1/2, and this is just the summary of what we just talked about. Okay? Now, I've done it for the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. So those first 9 numbers in those cells, like 1/2, square root of 3/2, and the square root of 3/3 for the 30-degree angle, and then square root of 2/2. We've done those 9 right there. The next group of 9, for the cosecant and the secant and the cotangent, like I said, I don't really particularly need you to memorize those. They'd be helpful if you did, but you can get those 9 from the previous 9. For example, if I wanted to know the sine, well, the cosecant of, let's say cosecant of 60 degrees, which if you look at the table is 2 root 3/3. Well, to do a cosecant of 60 degrees, we'll do a look at the sine of 60 degrees. And the sine of 60 degrees is going to be square root of 3/2. First cell on that 3rd row, square root of 3/2. Now, since cosecant is its reciprocal, it's going to be 2 divided by the square root of 3. And then if you take 2 divided by the square root of 3 and rationalize the denominator, you get their number 2 root 3/3. But so basically, if you overlay the first 3 over the last 3 sets, and take the reciprocals that coincide. So there's no need to memorize all 18 of them, just the first block of 9, and then use the reciprocal parts. All right. All right, so let's look at these. Find the exact value of each expression. So the sine squared of pi over 3 plus the tangent squared of pi over 4. And we're going to be sine of 60 degrees. So we're just actually going to be just calculating these. So let's look at these. The sine squared of pi over 3 plus the tangent squared of pi over 4. Well, we know the sine of pi over 3 is root 3/2, but it's squared. Now we know tangent of pi over 4 is 1, so we square that one. So you get those values from the table. And again, the quicker you have these memorized, the better. So square root of 3/2 squared is going to be 3/4 and plus 1. And that's going to be 5/4. Okay, so this is just giving us practice in the memorization, the idea of these, what we call special trig functions, or special angles. Now, sine of 60 degrees times the cosine of 45 degrees. Again, sine of 60 degrees is actually square root of 3/2, and the cosine of 45 degrees is the square root of 2/2. Again, I have them memorized. The quicker you get them memorized, the better. So square root of 3/2 times the square root of 2/2. Well, what's the value of that? Well, you just multiply the numerators together, which is the square root of 6, and multiply the denominators together, and that's 4. Square root of 6/4. Square root of 6 does not have any common perfect squares, so it is what it is. So square root of 6/4. Now the next one, the cosine of pi over 3 minus the cotangent of pi over 4. Now you're like, well, we don't have the cotangent memorized. I know, but we know the tangent of pi over 4. So first of all, the cosine of pi over 3, that's one of our special angles, and that's going to be at 1/2. And then the cotangent of pi over 4, well, what is the tangent of pi over 4? Tangent of pi over 4 is 1. So the reciprocal is for the cotangent, which also will become 1. And so it's going to be 1/2 take away 1, which is negative 1/2. So that is the value of that. Again, all this is just practicing evaluating these special angles for these trig functions. And that's all the purpose of this is. So, all right. That concludes this video. If you have any questions, let me know, and you have a good day.